Big story in Iowa right now in the legislative session as gender identity would no longer be a protected class in Iowa if a new bill is passed at the State House in this session. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ron Seal. As always, thanks for joining us here tonight. With that in mind, let's get quickly over to KWW reporter David Warrington joining us live right now. And David, the bill's sponsor does point out, or at least tries to insist, that there is another part of this measure which would protect transgender Iowans from discrimination. Tell us more about what you found.
Well, Ron, this bill is House File 2082. Now, it would remove gender identity from the Civil Rights Act here in the state of Iowa. The bill would also change the definition of a disability here in the state to include gender dysphoria. Now, gender dysphoria is defined as a sense of unease a person may have because of a mismatch between their biological sex and their gender identity. Removal of protections for gender identity could open up members of the transgender community to discrimination in things like housing and employment. However, the bill's sponsor, State Representative Jeff Shipley, argues that the classification of gender dysphoria as a disability opens up even stronger protections.
A disability under U.S. law is defined as either a physical or mental impairment that prevents someone from fully enjoying life. And basically, the legal protections outlined under House File 2082 are among some of the strongest legal protections in U.S. law.
Now, Damian Thompson with Iowa Safe Schools instead argues that this bill would further marginalize a community that he says is already marginalized. Additionally, he argued that not everybody has access to the needed health care in order to diagnose a disability and obtain those protections.
Of healthcare deserts, especially in rural Iowa, where there are not physicians that are qualified or accessible to diagnose gender dysphoria. It also disproportionately is going to impact low-income Iowans who can't afford that healthcare.
Now, gender identity has been a protected class here in the state of Iowa since 2007. Legislation aiming to remove this designation was struck down in 2020 before making it to subcommittee. And coming up tonight at 6, I'll have much more from those on both sides of this issue as HF 2082 moves towards a subcommittee hearing next week. Ron?
All right, David, thanks for the update as this controversy will continue in the session. Now, remember, earlier today, the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union of Iowa, did issue its own statement urging legislators to reject that proposed legislation. The policy director said in part, quote, "It is fundamentally against our principles and our history to take people's rights away from them, but that's exactly what this proposal does." That from the ACLU of Iowa.